Ramy, and I'm from Open Oakland, and I'm going to talk about diversity, equity, inclusion. So we're at Open Oakland, we formed a DEI group, and why did we form? Well, our brigades are part of a tech ecosystem, right? And so we know that that's not inclusive. So our first steps was to take a survey of our membership, because data. So starting off, let's talk about some working definitions. Diversity is not just about rainbows, and equity can be kind of seen as like a pot of gold, or the goal, where there's an equal distribution of resources. And inclusion encompasses the actions and work that we have to carry out to promote equity. But equity is a meaningless goal if we continue to engage in things like subtle biases, cliques, ageism, sexism, same culturism. They all work to undermine inclusion. So if these aren't counteracted, we're giving into exclusion. So what's our call to action? We needed a starting point beginning with the members of Open Oakland. So we sought collecting information with the survey, questions about demographics, ethnicity, race, disability, gender, orientation, age, and other variables. And the survey was anonymous, semi-quantitative, and we had 21 questions, and about 23 responses came in. So we thought that was a pretty good start. So we asked 2 separate questions about diversity and inclusion and asked respondents to rate Open Oakland's efforts in these areas on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being very poorly, 5 being very well. And this is what we found. On the question of how is Open Oakland doing diversity, 71% of respondents gave a score of 3 or less. So what that means, we interpreted 4 or 5 as okay and good, but 3 and below, not so great. And the average score was 2.9. And these were all confirmed by social scientists. And how is Open Oakland doing in inclusion? Similarly, 60% gave a score of 3 or less. Again, 1 being very poorly, 5 being very well. And the average score was 3.0. We're a pretty diverse group at Open Oakland, but these findings demonstrated that we needed to dig a bit deeper. So, on both questions, digging deeper, does who you are affect your response about how diversity and inclusion are being handled in our brigade? What we found, if you're a white, male, non-LGBTQIA, you tend to give higher ratings. All right, and so if we break it down, we look at diversity crossed with respondent race and ethnicity, you see that most people gave 3 or less, regardless of race. So we also asked, what are your top forms of diversity that you would like to see us work on? And these were the responses. Top 4 were ethnicity, gender, age, class, and income. So these were out of a possible 9 choices, and this helps inform our priorities as an organization. So we looking outside our weekly hack night walls at City Hall. We measured the demographics of respondents against the population of Oakland constituents and tech industry and found that most groups were actually underrepresented relative to the population, but better than the general tech industry. So some reflections on the us. We want to ask, how do we ensure that we're operating in and creating safer, supportive spaces and avoid exclusive behavior? So those are the questions we looked at. And what we are asking, what we need, are partnerships within the community, and we want and are currently working on codifying DEI principles to guide our organization's larger principles. And we want to ask ourselves, what are all our brigades doing to ensure equitable representation at our events? So, action steps. Next, we need to recruit, yes. Retain those people, yes. And we should look towards non-coders, non-developers, non-tech people, and outreach beyond our hack nights. And what about your brigade? You can do a similar survey. You can identify goals for equity. And then let's set up action plans with inclusion at every step. And what about you? As a brigade member, check yourself. Call out others with empathy. And think about your constituents, the people that you're actually doing this for. And our recommendations on the individual level are the same for all brigades. So, timeline-wise, for a project, there's now, nowish, later, right? But there's no reason to wait on having these conversations. So, the effectiveness of civic tech relies on innovations for all. So, I urge you to start today here at the Brigade Congress.